Hey everyone, I'm inviting Chris Champion, our speaker, to join our live stream right now. So hopefully he will come in here quickly and things will go well. I see we also have Chris Castro and Yahushua on here. Thank you both very much for joining. Put a little note in the chat about what you're thankful about. Hey, Chris.
Hey,
can you
hear me?
Yes.
Awesome.
So we got a little bit of lag here, but I think it'll be okay. So how are you doing today?
Man, I'm doing better than I deserve. Like Dave Ramsey says.
So, Chris, can you hear Chris okay? Chris Castro, can you hear Chris Champion okay? Okay, good deal.
We got a yes, good.
So, welcome to Meet Follower of One. I don't know that you and I have done this before on here, have we?
No, we haven't. We haven't before.
So, tell everyone a little bit about you and what you do these days.
Well, so Chris Champion, I currently work for Marketplace Chaplains. And so what we do is we help companies provide a proactive way to care for their employees by providing chaplains and into the workplace, right? So we work with business owners and the like to just help them care for those employees, create a culture of care. My role, I'm not nice enough to be one of our chaplains because our chaplains are just genuinely caring individuals. They actually really love people and really love caring for them. And so, I think I'm a nice guy, but just I'm not that nice. So I help manage some of our strategic accounts. So some of our larger, more complex, multi-thousand employee, multi-location, that type of thing. And so I just help make sure that we're providing them a great experience and deepening our partnership level with them. So.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And before that, you were doing you did a little business venture on your own for a while.
Yeah. Thanks for mentioning that. I was a failed entrepreneur, is what you were. So yes, and I say that in all the proper humility that it deserves. And so I went out.
You didn't do it long enough to fail. You just quit.
Okay, so maybe I'm a quitter. There you go. Okay, so I think what it was is God was gracious in His timing to show me that there are we're not all cut out to be entrepreneurs and solopreneurs, and that's okay, right? And so I think part of this journey that we are on as Christ followers is just learning to live under His reign and rule, and whatever that looks like for each of us is going to be unique. And so for me, I mean, I've worked around entrepreneurs and business owners for so long. I really thought, oh man, well, I could do that. I mean, and so. In fact, I was thinking about it this morning. I think I went into it for a lot of the wrong reasons, right? Mm-hmm. And if I'm being really kind of overly spiritualizing things, I probably put it on a level of idolatry, right? So it's like I thought I was gonna get things out of it that were misplaced, and I probably should have been getting from the Lord to begin with. And so, and so. I'm thankful though, because I can empathize in unique ways now with business owners and the like. So I mean, I still have that entrepreneurial spirit, but I know I need to. Yeah, I know where my strengths lie more now than before. So.
Very cool. We had a couple other people join us. Addison Williams and Ed Samuel both joined. So you guys put it in the chat what you're thankful about and let us know where you're from and those kinds of things in the chat. I'd love to keep the chat going. And also, if you have any questions specific for Chris. So we just got through a little introduction. Tell us a little bit about some of your heart when it comes to helping Christians in the marketplace. What goes on? What pops into your head when I just say what's something that you should
Yeah.
tell us?
Well, I think you know me well enough to know that question could last for a long time. But I would tell you that my first thing is kind of goes back to my story, right? In terms of, I worked for 25 plus years, in business, mainly in the, recruiting and consulting world type of environment. And I kept, so similar to your story, I kept going, God, I want you to call me into ministry. Like, here I am, Lord, send me, right? Like and then I had an opportunity, and I went to work for a ministry, and I thought, man, finally I'm here. And it was there that I developed this, began to actually develop a theology of work, and to understand that you have to work for a ministry to be in ministry, right? And so I think that was about the same time when you and I, first met, and you started, and then you shared this great story about, this idea of follower of one. And I'm like, that's it. Like, we are all called to serve God in and through our work, right? In and through our lives. And our work makes up one of the biggest portions of our life. And so, I think when you mention that, that's what immediately comes to mind is just, just this understanding of, man, just bloom where you're planted. God has gifted us, uniquely. Like, you understand how significant this idea of a theology of work is. And that, again, we hear things about it, but just really chewing on the reality that, God created humanity, right? Mankind in his image. And then he gave us a job to do. I mean, the first commandment and all of those things has to do with doing work. So, work was there before the fall. So, I would just encourage, believers to understand the significance of that. So,
Yeah, Addison mentioned that it's like the parable of the talents, right? You use what you've been given.
Yep. Not surprising that we have wisdom coming from Addison Williams. So,
no, it's not surprising. He's a sharp person.
yes, he
Um,
is.
I'm excited. I get excited about it too, because I really believe that we can always give something away. There's, to me, I think so often we think that we have to do something special or something like that, but you can always be a blessing to someone. You can always do something to encourage them. You can always give a smile, or give them the benefit of the doubt, or think positively about them, try and give them some courage. And
Yeah.
so much of what I think most of us would really like to have is someone who would just spend some time listening to us. Um, and, these are all things that we could be better at. Unfortunately, I will never get good enough at listening to people or being there for them, right? So we can keep going.
Yeah. Well, and you make such a great point. And again, kind of thinking through like our chaplains, right? And again, I mean, somewhat joking about, me not being nice enough to be a chaplain. What that has more to do with is that is their focus, right? Like, that's their call, right? But I think about how many times, so many. I mean, it's one of the main reasons for the effectiveness of the ministry work that we do is that they're just intentional about showing up and listening. And so, again, to your point, I mean, when it talks about loving our neighbor as ourselves, I mean, just, that's why I love your five daily habits, right? Just praying for your coworker. Like, that's, that's the kind of stuff that, whether we recognize it or not, that's the kind of stuff that the enemy goes, uh-oh, man, Mike Henry started praying for something, man, dang it. Like, we're losing ground here. We're I mean, just that is a huge, a huge impact. So in the kingdom. So yeah.
Well, and I also think, and this is one of the things that I think we all get to kind of guard against as well. I don't want my coworkers to even believe that it's just totally been outsourced to the chaplain, right?
Right.
We because we create this kind of idea that it's the professionals who do stuff with their faith, and the
Yeah.
rest of us are amateurs. You know, the old story about how my pastor's paid to be good, but I'm good for nothing. And you know, we're
Uh,
supposed to. Each of us has an opportunity to be part of this. You know,
yeah.
to be part of what God's doing in the world.
Yeah. 100%. No, I completely agree. Um, so I see a question here.
So Ed asked you
Uh,
a question. So yeah, so Ed's a great career coach and very involved in our community as well. And he's asking, so if someone wanted to pivot to becoming a chaplain in that career, is there a recommended path?
yeah. So great question. So there are programs out there, right, that will that speak into chaplaincy and train towards those things. But what I would say is really what we look for, right, is we look for somebody who has experience and a history in being in roles that provide care, right? And that can take a lot of different forms. And so one thing I might say is that if somebody wanted to pivot into that, really, you might just want to, reach out to us and say, hey, this is what I've been doing. Does this sound like something, that you guys could use? And so, yeah, I don't know if there's an actual, pivot beyond that. A lot of times, again, people have these tendencies, right? To, again, I would think that lots of lots of folks that would be in this community, would display a lot of those things, a lot of those
Mhm.
characteristics. Again, man, I pray for my coworkers. I ask them questions. I genuinely care about them. I want to know about them. You know, I know all their kids' names, and you know,
Mhm.
so it's being in those positions of caring, and that can take a lot of different forms. So I don't know if that's helpful, Ed, or not, but yeah. So
Well, I actually think it would be great if we had a number of people who became chaplains out of follower of one.
yeah,
You know, as you get later in your career and you want to make a difference in someone's life, if there's a business nearby that needs a chaplain and you can partner with an organization, that would be great.
yeah. Yeah, I think that's great, and like I said, I think a lot of people that would be in here and that are already practicing those 5 daily habits with
Mhm.
frequency,
Yeah.
again, fit in. But I also, again, I want to go back to what you said a second ago and emphasize that, because back to your original question, like yes, again, I maybe want to clarify this idea of me not being nice enough to be a chaplain, right? So it doesn't mean that I can't do it or that I don't do parts of it, right?
Hmm.
As an employee, right? Again, it's asking questions, taking a genuine interest in somebody, and just really caring about them and their answers, and having a desire to get to know them. Just
Hmm.
imagine, like, if we were all doing that, if everybody here in the follower of one community was doing that, listen, we would not replace the need for chaplains because they have training and they have this, but man, you talk about accelerating, the kingdom and making a dent in Satan's plan to to deceive and kill and destroy. It could be huge. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I see we have another member who joined, Okichugwu. I hope I said that right. So welcome to the chat. Let us know in the chat where you're listening in from and what you're thankful for. I agree with you, Chris. I think the dream here is imagine when all the other Christians get in the game.
Mm.
Imagine when whatever Christian you grab gives you a great winsome explanation about what it's like to be a Christ follower, and can
Yeah.
tell you about the joy that they have giving away pieces of their life just because we're followers of Jesus Christ. I think it would be so attractive and it would be so energizing to people that it would bring about a new revival or awakening in whatever area or place where you did that, in your
Yeah.
workplace or in a city or in a region. So
Yeah.
to me, that's the big dream and that's part of the reason why we started marketing the mission trips to churches, is to get a church to do this together, to help everyone in the church do that.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I think it's, it's one of those things where I even think about the the verse of the day, right? From Second Corinthians 5, right? And this idea of this ministry of reconciliation, and that we are ambassadors for Christ. And so it's like, it's one of those reminders where we literally, we are bringing the kingdom of God into our sphere wherever we are, right?
yes.
So just awakening to that, being aware
Uh-huh.
of that, and then activating that, right? And again, I've talked before, that's one of the things that I love about Follower of One is it's an activating ministry, right?
Mhm.
It takes all of those things and goes, okay, what do I do now? Cool. I go pray for my coworkers. Okay, awesome. I get prepared to
Yeah.
tell my own story. Awesome, right? Like all of those little steps are significant. Like you said, man, the more we do it and the better we get at doing it, the more, I mean, we're fighting against powers and principalities when we do that. And
Yes.
that's cool. Like, let's go. So,
Exactly. Exactly. Well, and I just think it's cool too, just to see how God makes ways for us to interact with people, and to when we start looking for these opportunities, we start seeing more of them, and He
mhm.
puts us to work.
Yeah,
It's really cool.
yeah, agreed. Yeah.
Well, anyway, I mean, I see someone else just joined. Jessica Fletcher just joined. So thanks, Jess, for just joining. Put in the chat where you're listening in from. And if you have any questions for Chris, we got our guest today is Chris Champion with Marketplace Chaplains. And I'm just excited to see what's happening in the world. He continues to use members of our community in different places. Chris, you just
Mhm.
recently started with Marketplace Chaplains, but I think it was a great question that Ed asked. There is opportunities for people to make a living. You can make a living as a chaplain. You
Mhm.
guys are
Yeah.
looking for chaplains in certain places, aren't you, Chris? Because of you have businesses who are interested in chaplaincy, but there's no one around.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would say that we're in a continual, we're continually seeking out good chaplains, right? Because it is a unique calling, right? And we look for those individuals who can, again, what we're looking for is somebody who can walk into a space um, and be very intentional about the person that's sitting in front of them, right? And to be able to develop a relationship, right? And not in a, like awkward hovering over, folks, but high IQ, right? Being able to read a situation, read a room, right? And really, again, everything we do starts off with care, right? So caring for those folks. In fact, one of the commitments that we make to the clients that we serve is that we're not in there proselytizing, right? Like like our chaplains aren't showing up in black robes and carrying Bibles, right? So that's not, that's they're there to care first. And if we get permission, if we get invited in to that conversation of faith and where those things meet, then yeah, we want to meet them. in those needs. Because, listen, we know that the Sunday school answer is the best answer, right? And that is that the answer to all problems is Jesus. You know, learning how to get there and learning how to navigate through that is one of the keys for us. So.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you. I don't know if everyone's having this problem. I'm having a little bit of a technical difficulty in hearing. We may be having some spiritual warfare going on with our technology today, but I am excited about how God is working in all of this. And I'm grateful for Ed asking that question, because I think it's great to get this out on the table. There are a lot of opportunities for us to figure out how we can make a difference with our faith in the marketplace. There are many Christian business leaders who need to probably be talking to you about chaplaincy as well, right, Chris? I mean, it's something that companies can purchase, and they can scale it to based on their number of employees and things like that, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, the way that we work, right, the way that we function is we are a fee for service back to the organization that we serve, right? So and we typically do that on typically it's on a PEPM or a per employee per month basis, right? And so to your point, yeah, I mean, we serve organizations with, a handful of employees up to, oh gosh, almost 30,000 employees, right? I think is our largest single organization that we serve. And we serve, of course, we serve company leaders that are Christian and faithful and, love the idea of, somebody might be able to introduce them to Jesus, all the way to, very, very secular organizations. Like they have no interest in knowing that we, might interject the faith into, things, in terms of tracking that, but they just, they care for their employees, right? So, we can scale. We serve. We have 2,200 plus chaplains across the country. We serve about 6,000 locations. We're in those work sites every week. We when you look at, so for every for every employee that we serve, we also offer our services free to their family members, to vendors, suppliers, et cetera, right? So it's almost a 3x multiple, right? So we're serving about 500,000 employees right now, which means we're impacting about 1.5 million lives, right? So scope and reach, and and where that's cool is where, if a family member, if an employee, in Dallas, Texas, has a family member in, Tampa, Florida, right? And they need the help of a chaplain, we will happily deploy, one of our Tampa chaplains and have somebody there in, short order for them. So again, it's cool to have that reach to be able to do those things. So, yeah.
Very cool. So, real quickly, tell us how people can connect with you. Of course, those of you that are listening to this inside our online community, you can just click on Chris's profile and chat with him inside the community. But how else can they get in touch with you if they're interested in either being a chaplain or talking about getting a chaplain?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So, man, I think probably the easiest way is just shoot me an email, and it's just Chris Champion. So my name all together, no, dots or spaces or anything. So Chris Champion at mchapusa.com. So yeah,
Chris Champion at mchapusa.com.
Yeah, and Ed, thanks for your question, and I'm happy to have a longer conversation if you'd like at some point. Feel free to reach out to me. So, always want to help it however I can. Yeah.
So, and I put it in the chat here, and hopefully we can get that in the notes on the video and on the recording. So I'm excited. Thank you so much for doing this today, Chris. I'm grateful for you And for the 6 people that joined us today, we had a bunch of folks. We had Chris Castro and Yaushva and Ed Samuel, Addison Williams, Ochiku Agu, and Jessica Fletcher all joined us. Thank you all very much for joining this kind of pre-Thanksgiving meet follower of one. And Chris, thanks for doing this.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
You know, and we got so much to be thankful for, right? You know, first and foremost,
Yeah.
our Lord and Savior. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you all for being here. Chris, thanks for doing this. We'll wrap it up today and appreciate you. For those of you in the States, have a wonderful Thanksgiving. And even if you're not in the States, be thankful. I mean, that's a blessing to us to remember that everything that we have comes from God. So thanks, everyone.
Amen. Amen.
See you.
See ya.